Introduction to Programming. Concept of Algorithm. Concept of Flowchart and Programming Concepts. Concept of Algorithm. An algorithm is a set of instructions. This is comparable to a recipe that provides you steps on how to use the materials and put together the ingredients to get a product, such as cake, for instance. Or, in other terms, it is a set of instructions for solving a problem or accomplishing a task. How to write an algorithm. First, define the inputs. Second, define the variables. Third, outline the operations. Fourth, output the results. Inputs are data to be processed. Variables are used to store information to be referenced and manipulated. Outline operations. Operations are actions or processes to be carried out to accomplish a task. Output the results. Output is the data generated after the series of operations. Concept of flowchart. It is a diagram that uses special symbols representing an algorithm or process. Flowchart is specifically helpful in figuring out bugs in a program before carrying it out. Basic flowchart symbols. Terminal. It indicates the start or end of a flowchart. Preparation, initialization. It is used to prepare or initialize variables. Input, output. It is used to take input from or display output on. Process. It represents arithmetic, instruction, or any data manipulation. Decision. It represents a decision point such as yes or no or true or false. On-page connector. It is used to connect a remote flowchart portion on the same page. Off-page connector. It is used to connect a remote flowchart portion on another page. Flow lines. It indicates the flow of control. When creating a flowchart, take care of the following guidelines. There should only be one start and one end symbol in a flowchart. The general flow of the processes is from top to bottom or left to right. Flow lines should not cross each other. Only one flow line should come out from a process symbol. On-page connectors are referenced using numbers. Off-page connectors are referenced using alphabets. Programming language is a formal language comprising of set of grammatical rules to instruct a computer in performing a task. There are different types of programming languages as follows. Low-level programming languages. They are languages that have little or no abstraction of programming concepts and are very close to machine instructions. Examples of these are machine codes and assembly language. High-level programming languages. They are languages that have very high abstraction of programming concepts and are written in a form that is close to human language. Examples of these are Java, Visual Basics, and Python. Overview of C++. Origins of C++ programming language. C++ programming language is said to be a combination of high-level and low-level languages, hence considered a middle-level language. It was created by Bjørn Stroustrup, a Danish computer scientist at Bell Telephone Laboratories, now known as Nokia Bell Labs in Murray Hill, New Jersey. Uses of C++. C++ is one of the primary choices in developing several applications. C++ is used for developing the following. Operating systems. An operating system is system software that manages computer hardware, software resources, and provides common services for computer programs. Browsers. Browser is an application program that provides a way to look at and interact with all the information on the World Wide Web, such as Google Chrome and Firefox. Libraries. It is developed using C++, particularly used in the back-end because of its speed. Graphics. It is used in the back-end of software that utilizes computer vision, digital image processing, and high-end graphical processing. Databases. A database is an organized collection of structured information or data typically stored electronically in a computer system. Embedded systems. Different embedded systems such as smartwatches are written in C++. The fact that C++ is close to machine codes compared to high-level languages. It is a microprocessor-based computer hardware system with software that is designed to perform a dedicated function. Compilers. It is a program that converts instructions into machine code or lower level form so that they can be read and executed by a computer. Most of the compilers, such as the compilers of C# and Java, are also written in C++. Media access. C++ is also used for creating a media player, managing video files and audio files such as Winamp Media Player. Cloud or distributed systems. Cloud storage systems and other distributed systems also use C++ because it is compatible with several machines. Telephone switches. C++ is also widely used in programming telephone, switches, and routers. IDE, an integrated development environment. It is a software application that provides comprehensive facilities to programmers for software development. A tool of programmers to consolidate the different aspects of writing a computer program. There are several IDEs used for C++ programming. For PCs, you can use Dev C++, CodeBlocks, Visual Studio Code, Xcode, Eclipse, Sublime Text, or CodeLite. For mobile phones, you can use CPP Droid or CXX Droid for Android, while Mobile C or Textastic Code Editor for iOS. This is the sample program. Line 1. When you see dash sign, this means it is a pre-processing directive that is interpreted before the compilation of the program. The directive #include iStream instructs the preprocessor using the header iStream to display I love C++. To the screen, iStream is a precompiled C++ code that handles input and output operations. Line 2. When this line is used, you don't need to use std anymore every time you use calc. White space is the term used to describe blanks, tabs, new line characters, and comments. Line 4. The line int main is the special function in all C++ programs where execution begins. Line 5 and 8. The curly brackets determine the start and end of a block. A block in C++ is a set of logically connected statements. Line 6. This line is a single line comment available in C++, which is ignored by the compiler. You can use them to include short explanations or observations concerning your program. Line 7. This line is a C++ statement. A statement consists of expression, functions, operators, or symbols that produce effect. Selection control statement are conditional control structures in C++ that are able to select between two or more decision paths and are implemented using if-else, and switch statements. If statement. The if statement is a single selection statement used in C++ to execute a block of statements only when the condition is true. The syntax is if condition statement, where if is the keyword used for selection control statement. Take note that the keyword uses lowercase letters. Condition is the expression that is being evaluated, which makes use of relational operators. Block of statements is the group of statements that is executed when the condition is true. If the condition is false, the block of statements is ignored. If-else statement. If-else statement is used when there are two conditions. where statement 1 is the group of statements that is executed in case condition is true. Statements number 2 is the group of statements that is executed in case condition is false. Nested if and if-else statement and switch statement. Nested if and if-else statements. The nested if and if-else statements as well as switch statement in C++. Specifically in this section, the use of one if or else if statement inside another if or else if statement will be presented to demonstrate how to select actions to be performed depending on several conditions. The use of relational and logical operators that were introduced in the previous lesson will also be presented. The inner if will be executed when condition number 1 is true. Otherwise, the inner if will be ignored. The block of statements in the inner if will be executed when condition number 2 is true. Otherwise, it will be completely ignored too. Switch statement. The switch statement is another selection control statement used in C++. It is used to select one of the block of statements to be executed based from the value of the expression when tested in each case. When the switch is the keyword for the switch statement, expression is the one that is evaluated and compared with the values of each case. Case is the keyword for the case statement. Constant expression must be a constant or literal that has the same data type with the variable. Break is the keyword which terminates the switch statement and jumps to the statement immediately. Default is the keyword that is optional, which is used when there is no match from the given case. When the code fragment above is evaluated, let us assume that the value of x is b. The first case will be tested. Since the value of the case, which is a, does not match the value of the variable x, it goes to the second case. Since the second case matches the value of the variable which is b, then very good will be displayed and jumps to the statement immediately, following the switch because of the break statement. The statement following the switch is the count statement, hence done will be displayed. Reiteration control statements, otherwise called loop statements. There are three types of loops: for, while, and do while, otherwise called loop statement. There are three types of loop statements in C++, namely for loop, while loop, and do while loop. Specifically, for loop is used when you know exactly the number of times you want to loop through a block of code. Where initialization is where you declare the initial value of your variable. Condition is where you set the condition which, when satisfied, the loop is executed. Otherwise, the for loop is terminated. Increment decrement is where you set updates on the value of your variable, either it increments or decrements. It starts with the initialization of variable, which is executed only once. It then goes to the condition where it is evaluated whether or not it is true or false. If the condition is false, the for loop is terminated. If the condition is true, it executes the block of codes. The initial value of variable c is 0. Since 0 is less than 3, it goes to the statement within the for loop which prints 0. It then increments the value of c, where c becomes 1. Since 1 is still less than 3, it goes to the statement within the for loop which prints 1. It then increments again the value of c, where c now becomes 2. Since 2 is still less than 3, it goes to the statement within the for loop, which prints 2. If then the increments again the value of c, where c becomes 3, the condition is re-evaluated, and since 3 is not less than 3, the for loop is terminated. This will be the output. This is nested for loop. In the outer loop, the initial value of variable c is 0. Since 0 is less than 3, the inner loop will be executed from the inner loop. The initial value of variable c is 0. Since 0 is less than 2, it goes to the statement within the inner loop which prints 0. It then increments the value of c where c becomes 1. Since 1 is still less than 2, it goes to the statement within the inner loop which prints 1. It then increments again the value of c where c now becomes 2. The condition in the inner loop is re-evaluated, and since 2 is not less than 2, the inner loop is terminated. It then goes back to the outer loop where variable c is incremented and now becomes 1. Since 1 is less than 3, the inner loop will be executed and the same process will follow until the condition in the inner loop gets false. Similarly, the outer loop ends as soon as the condition gets false. This will be the output. While statements. The use of while statement as a reiteration control statement, otherwise called loop statement. While loop is another type of loop statement in C++. It is used only when the number of times you want to loop are not exactly known. The while loop syntax is while condition close and open brackets block of statements, where while is the keyword for the while loop statement. Condition is where you set the condition which when satisfied, the loop is executed, otherwise the while loop is terminated. Block of statements is the body of the loop that is executed when the condition is met. Flow of execution of while loop. It then goes to the condition where it is evaluated whether or not it is true or false. If the condition is false, the while loop is terminated. If the condition is true, it executes the block of statements. The increment-decrement part, which is part of the block statements, when executed updates the loop counter, after which it goes back to the condition part where it is re-evaluated. Do-while statement. Do-while loop is another type of loop statement in C++. It is also used to iterate a block of statements several times. Specifically, do-while loop is used if the number of iterations is not fixed. The block of statements is executed at least once since the condition is checked after the block of statements. This is the do-while loop syntax, where do and while are the keywords used in the loop. Condition is where you set the condition which when satisfied, the loop is executed, otherwise the loop is terminated. Block of statements is the body of the loop that is executed once and is executed again as long as the condition is met. Flow of execution of do-while loop. It starts with the initialization of variable which is executed only once, which is similar to the for loop, after which it executes the block of statements and then goes to the condition where it is evaluated whether or not it is true or false. If the condition is false, the do-while loop is terminated. If the condition is true, it executes the block of statements again. The increment-decrement is part of the block of statements which when executed updates the loop counter, after which it goes back to the condition part where it is re-evaluated. Function. A function is a block of statements that perform a specific task which can only be executed when it is called. It is also known as a method or a subroutine or a procedure. These are the predefined functions of C++. POW base exponent returns base raised to the power of exponent. ABS number returns the absolute value of the argument number. Round number returns the integral value that is nearest to the argument, which halfway cases rounded away from 0. SQRT number returns the square root of a single non-negative argument number. SIN angle in rad returns the sign of an angle argument given in radians. strlen string returns length of given string. strcat destination source appends a copy of the character string pointed to by source to the end of string pointed to by destination. strcpy strcpy destination source copies the character string pointed to by source to the memory location pointed to by destination. Tuple character returns the uppercase version of the character if it exists. Works with butcher function to write the character to the standard output. To lower character returns the lowercase version of the character if it exists. Works with the butcher function to write a character to the standard output. Is upper character checks if character is in uppercase. Is lower character checks if character is in lowercase. Is alpha character checks if the given character is an alphabet or not. Is digit character checks if the given character is a digit or not. User-defined functions. C++ also allows you to create your own functions to perform specific actions beside the predefined functions available in the standard library. This kind of function is called user-defined function. User-defined functions are important when you want to reuse block of statements anytime within the program. The syntax is return type function name parameter list close and open brackets block of statements, where return type is the data type of the value the function returns. When you want your function not to return a value, then use the keyword void as the return type. Function name is the name given to the function. Parameter list one or more parameters where values are passed. A parameter consists of a type followed by an identifier. If there are more than one parameter, then each parameter is separated from the next by a comma. Parameters are, however, optional, which means a function may contain no parameters. Block of statements are a group of statements that define what the function performs. Functions with parameters but with no return values. Parameters are actually variables that are used to hold values of arguments passed while the function is called. Both parameters and arguments must have the same data type to avoid errors. The sample program has a function named getName. The getName function has void type, hence the function is expected not to return any value. The parenthesis beside the function name is not empty anymore, which means the function has a parameter which is string fn. At line 14, the function getName is invoked and has an argument fName. An argument is a variable whose value is passed on to the parameter. In this example, the input from the user that is stored in fName is passed on to the parameter of function getName. Functions with parameters and return values. Functions with parameters and return values. Always remember that both parameters and arguments must have the same data type to avoid errors when using this function category. In the given program, the function getName has string type, which means that it returns a string value. At line 16, the function getName is invoked and has an argument fName. In this example, any input from the user that is stored in fName is passed on to the parameter of function getName, which is fn. With this fn is now equal to the value of fName. In the body of the function getName, a string variable greet is declared. At line 7, the value of fn is concatenated with the string hello and is assigned to variable greet. At line 8, the value of greet is returned. The control goes back to line 16 where the value of greet is displayed. Recursive functions. Functions is also especially helpful when performing tasks repeatedly. This method is called recursion. To do this using functions, you may have to use recursive functions. Recursive function is a function that calls itself, where my function is the recursive function that is called over and over again. Recursion in the function continues until the condition is met. When using recursive function, you have to take extra careful to avoid an infinite recursion. This can be done using the if-else statement. Below is a popular example in a recursive function that computes for the factorial of an input integer. Factorial means the product of all positive integers less than or equal to n. For example, the factorial of 5 is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5, which is equal to 120. The sample program has a recursive function which continues when n is less than 1 and returns the computed value, otherwise it returns 1. The output of the program is enter a non-negative number, 5. Factorial of 5 is equal to 120. And that's it. Thank you for listening.